Imagine this, you guys. 11 straight days in Washington, D.C. without a single black person being murdered. I mean, it's almost like a miracle. 11 days. No body bags, no candlelit vigils, no hashtags, no teddy bears on the side of the road, nothing. How is this possible? I'll tell you how it's possible. Donald J. Trump, he took over the crime-infested Capitol, and literally with the stroke of a pen, he did what Democrats haven't done in decades. Like, they've never, in my opinion, managed to do it. Y'all, Trump is keeping black folks alive. Actually, it's not just black folks, it's all Americans. But you would think instead of celebrating because the incidents of black lives being preserved, like lives are being preserved, you would think the Democrats would celebrate. But no, instead of celebrating, the Democrats are big mad. They are big mad, and they are obfuscating everything else other than accepting accountability and responsibility and facing the facts. So I want to talk about it today, and we're going to get into it because we've got some hypocrisy to expose and some truth to reveal. So let's get into it. You guys, welcome back to Unshakable with April Chapman, where we discuss all things social, cultural, political, and theological from a biblical perspective. I am your host, April Chapman, and welcome to today's show. Now, today, we're going to be breaking down the Trump crime crackdown. That's what we've got to call it. And it's interesting because this entire situation, it is shining a massive spotlight on all of these Democrat-run cities that are absolutely falling apart faster than Hunter Biden at a drug test. Like, you gotta see it, right? But the thing is, the results don't lie. And so, first of all, we need to start with the facts. There have been 11 straight days in the District of Columbia with 0 homicides. Like, 0. Like, that hasn't happened in living memory. Trump federalized the police in the district, which he's allowed to do, and he has signed an executive order ending the cashless bail system. And so, therefore, what we've noticed, this miraculous correlation, immediately people could tell something is different. They're able to walk the streets again. People are wearing watches and carrying purses. There is just this breath of fresh air. People are breathing a sigh of relief, and it's because someone saw a problem and they're like, oh, here's the solution. Let's fix it.
I'll start signing the executive orders. To me, this is a very, very big deal. One of the executive orders has to do with cashless bail. That was when the big crime in this country started. And I can tell you who did it, when, but I don't want to do that, because others followed pretty quickly. But that was when it happened. Somebody kills somebody, they go in, don't worry about it, no cash, come back in a couple of months, we'll give you a trial. You never see the person again. And, I mean, they kill people and they get out. Cashless bail. They thought it was discriminatory to make people put up money because they just killed 3 people lying on a street. Any street all over the country, cashless bail. We're ending it, but we're starting by ending it in D.C., and that we have the right to do through federalization. Okay, let's go. Could I ask you to say exactly what this is?
Of course. So, as you've consistently identified, sir, cashless bail policies are a key driver of the disorder we see on city streets all over America. Catch and release system allows criminals to keep going back out onto the street and reoffending. What this executive order does, it charges your attorney general with identifying jurisdictions all over the country that have cashless bail policies, and then it withholds or revokes federal funds and grants that are flowing to those jurisdictions to ensure that we're only supporting the people who have reasonable common sense policies around crime.
So what area does it cover?
Potentially anywhere that has a cashless bail policy. So some of the largest cities, some of the most left-wing states in America
Almost
have adopted.
All of them, right?
Illinois would be a great example of that, sir.
Oh, they have a great cashless bail. You don't even have to go to court sometimes. No, Illinois, I love that state. It's a great state, but it's run so badly by Pritzker. They threw him out of the family business, and he becomes governor.
We've uncovered, in the process of uncovering, a massive scandal in Washington, D.C. with the doctoring of crime stats. And the Department of Justice, under the Attorney General, is leading the effort to uncover this. But when we ultimately share the results, it will stun you. the extent to which, even though D.C. had the worst crime in America, honestly measured, it dramatically understated how bad it was. There's even accusations that murders and homicides were reported as accidents instead of murders. I mean, this is how severe the manipulation of the crime data has been in this city, and it will all be uncovered and it will all be brought to light. You know, I've had a chance to spend some time, as has everyone here, with the police officers in the city. Members of the public are going up to them and thanking them, just overflowing with gratitude, because for the first time in their lives, they can use the parks, they can walk on the streets. You have people who can walk freely at night without having to worry about being robbed or mugged. They're wearing their watches again. They're wearing jewelry again. They're carrying purses again. People had changed their whole lives in this city for fear of being murdered, mugged, and carjacked. It is a literal statement that President Trump has freed 700,000 people in this city who were living under the rule of criminals and thugs. And the last thing I'll say is that under the efforts of Terry, to my left and many here, what they found also is that the street criminals here in Washington, D.C. were doing business directly with the transnational criminal cartels, the foreign terrorist organizations. So not only was the city being run by these criminal thugs, but they were working with some of the most dangerous terrorist organizations on the planet to traffic weapons and drugs into this city. And what we are uncovering every day is shocking to us, and we look forward to sharing all the results with you. But President Trump, your leadership has uncovered some of the great public safety scandals of our life, and now because of you, people are safe and free for the first time ever.
But meanwhile, Democrats are panicking. Instead of them saying, you know, maybe we should kind of rinse and repeat and copy that, they're doing the opposite. They're spinning this, they're gaslighting, they're crying racism. You know, you can't leave the racism out, because that's what they always do. Whenever the truth slaps them across the face, they're like, they're racist. It's racist. That's what it is. This is a racial motivated positive change. It must be racism. That is the argumentation that these fools have come up with, right? So instead of them acknowledging that, okay, we messed up, Democrats instead resort to gaslighting. So here's the trick. Democrats have been lying to Americans about crime stats for years. It's already been discovered that instead of them saying, oh, this was an actual homicide, we'll just record that we responded to an accident, right? Like, we now know that homicides in D.C. were reclassified as accidents just to make things look better. Because, see, they don't actually have solutions to fix anything, so they always got to lie and be deceptive and weaselly with their words and gaslight people about reality. These fools were cooking the books. They were cooking the books while citizens were actually cooking in the streets.
We've uncovered, in the process of uncovering, a massive scandal in Washington, D.C. with the doctoring of crime stats. And the Department of Justice, under the Attorney General, is leading the effort to uncover this. But when we ultimately share the results, it will stun you. The extent to which, even though D.C. had the worst crime in America, honestly measured, it dramatically understated how bad it was. There's even accusations that murders and homicides were reported as accidents instead of murders. I mean, this is how severe the manipulation of the crime data has been in this city, and it will all be uncovered and it will all be brought to light. You know, I've had a chance to spend some time, as has everyone here, with the police officers in the city. Members of the public are going up to them and thanking them, just overflowing with gratitude, because for the first time in their lives, they can use the parks, they can walk on the streets. You have people who can walk freely at night without having to worry about being robbed or mugged. They're wearing their watches again. They're wearing jewelry again. They're carrying purses again. People had changed their whole lives in this city for fear of being murdered, mugged, and carjacked. It is a literal statement that President Trump has freed 700,000 people in this city who were living under the rule of criminals and thugs. And the last thing I'll say is that under the efforts of Terry, to my left and many here, what they found also is that the street criminals here in Washington, D.C. were doing business directly with the transnational criminal cartels, the foreign terrorist organizations. So not only was the city being run by these criminal thugs, but they were working with some of the most dangerous terrorist organizations on the planet to traffic weapons and drugs into this city. And what we are uncovering every day is shocking to us, and we look forward to sharing all the results with you. But President Trump, your leadership has uncovered some of the great public safety scandals of our life, and now because of you, people are safe and free for the first time ever.
But then what makes matters worse, CNN and MSNBC, they come in to run cover, right? So the mainstream media, they're pretending, oh no, crime is down. Don't you see these numbers? Crime is down. One anchor tried to blame Republican governors because blue cities happen to be inside of red states. And this one reporter actually asked Donald Trump, would he deploy this militarized effort in blue cities that are in red states?
On the National Guard, you've talked a lot about Democratic-run cities and states. Yeah. Would you also consider sending the National Guard into red states and red cities that are also seeing high crime?
Sure, but there aren't that many of them. If you look at the top 25 cities for crime, just about every one of those cities is run by Democrats. And you know, one of the bad things they did, cashless bail, if you look back on time, when they allowed a murderer out that afternoon, you know, he'd kill somebody and then a couple of hours later he's walking the streets again, oftentimes killing again rapidly. Cashless bail is a disaster. You saw we had a news conference today on that. We're wiping it out in D.C., immediately wiping it out. It started in New York, I must tell you, and it's been a horrible thing for crime, especially violent crime. So we're going to end cashless bail, yes.
Y'all, that's like blaming the landlord because your roommate won't stop throwing parties. Like, that doesn't even make sense. Memphis and St. Louis, yes, those are in red states, but those cities, just like Baltimore and Chicago, they are all run by Democrats. That is the common denominator. Why these Democrats are trying to play dumb and act stupid is beyond me. But there's an interesting character at the center of this controversy that I wanted to highlight, and that's Governor Wes Moore. Okay, we're going to call him Mr. Two-Face, right? Now, Wes Moore, the governor of Maryland, he is like their golden boy, right? Now, publicly, this man struts around like a progressive peacock, always affirming that Black Lives Matter, and he's on criminal justice reform. He's absolutely soft on crime, but privately, Trump is telling a different story. Trump says that Wes Moore came running up to him at the Army-Navy game and shook his hand and hugged his neck and whispered, you know, like a little fangirl, like, sir, you know, you're the greatest president of my lifetime.
Baltimore is a horrible, horrible deathbed. It's a deathbed. I know Governor Moore said, oh, he wants to take a walk with me. He meant it in a derogatory tone. I said, no. I'm the president of the United States. Clean up your crime and I'll walk with you. But it's tremendous crime. But he was trying to be derogatory. He doesn't have what it takes. But he's trying to be derogatory. And I met him at the Army-Navy game. They said, oh, there's Governor Moore. He'd love to see you. He came over to me. He hugged me, shook my hand. You were there. He said, sir, you're the greatest president of my lifetime. I said, but it's really nice that you say that. I'd love you to say it publicly, but I don't think you can do that, so it's okay. But no, sir, you're doing a fantastic job. I want to just shake your hand. Thank you very much, Governor. That was it. And then every time I see him on television, he's knocking the hell out of me. So, but that's all right. That's called politics.
Right. So Trump is saying that this is Trump's account of what happened. But then Russ Moore jumps on MSNBC and he starts saying something brand new. He's like, well, you know, that conversation never happened.
There's the president again speaking about you. And he said at the Army-Navy game earlier that you had a great relationship and you called him the greatest president we've ever had.
Yeah. Good morning, TJ. And, no, listen, I'm a person who takes my integrity very seriously. And I spent the past 6 months before that election campaigning as to why I did not think that he should be the next president of the United States. So when I say that conversation never happened, that imaginary conversation never happened, I mean that conversation never happened. But more importantly, this is a distraction, and it's exactly what we've been talking about. It's the fact that, you know, his policies have been driving prices up for everybody, from everything from the food that people are eating to the clothes that they are wearing to the energy prices that they're now paying for. The fact that he's single-handedly helping to drive up the unemployment rate by his federal job cuts. The fact that we are seeing threats now to funding, to everything from emergency relief to our friends in Allegheny and Garrett County in Western Maryland, to now improperly and illegally claiming that he can somehow cut bridge funding. This is a distraction.
And I'm like, really? Because when you look at the video footage, it sure does make Wes Moore look like he's Trump's #1 groupie. That's just my opinion.
Sir, welcome back to Maryland. It's good to see you.
In person, too.
Thank you, sir. Great to see you. Great to see you. And great to have you back here. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Well, we are very, very anxious to be able to work closely with you, and I know the key bridge is something that we're specifically focused on. It's going well. I mean, we spoke with Speaker Johnson yesterday.
Right? But like every liberal politician, or should I say many liberal politicians, they live their personal lives with all of this conservative discipline. If you look at Wes Moore, he's got him and his wife and the 2.5 kids, and they look very they look like they live their life under conservative principles. You could just tell. But this man is running his political life like a leftist disaster, because you have to understand this is what keeps the freak nasty Democrat donors happy. Right? So they may live one way privately, but in publicly, they will advocate for the policies that are not in your best interest. In my opinion, Wes is a fraud. He knows that Baltimore is a deathbed. He knows that it's losing population. He knows that businesses are jumping ship left and right. He knows that the city is losing hope. And yet, he still plays the progressive game because he has his sights on the White House, and he knows he's going to need the freak nasty donor money in order to win, or to even competitively put his hat in the ring to run a race. So he will speak out of both sides of his mouth. So in this instance, you're gonna have to decide who you believe. Now, I know my audience. My audience is like, I don't believe that liberal lying Democrat to save my life. And I'm with you. I really don't believe him either. I understand in the game of politics, a lot of these liberals will affirm and side with the GOP in private. And they know that the left has become so left that they're actually leaving them behind, but they can't say anything. They have to toe the line and do what the donors want. And as a result, the people that they're called to serve end up suffering in the process. And I just believe that, so this back and forth exchange of who said what and who shot John, I really believe Trump on this issue. And he even said, Wes is not going to admit it publicly. And I know that, because this is how politics is. But here's what I want to do. I want to help you guys understand that the party of chaos, which are the Democrats are not interested in safe streets. They're just not. Why? Safe streets mean people prosper, right? People prosper, and prosperous people don't need government handouts. So if your entire policy platform is hell-bent on begging, whining, crying, grievance, and welfare dependence, right, you don't really have much to run on. Because if folks stop needing welfare, if folks stop needing free stuff, Democrats lose their favorite leash. That's how they keep you tethered to their party.
It's a lot talking about how I've condemned a lot of what was going on in Chicago back in the day and other points. It's not about crime. But when you have this consistent pattern that you're only going after black mayors, now you're going to fight Wes Moore. I mean, the pattern here is clear, particularly when the data shows that crime is down in these cities.
We cannot incarcerate our way out of violence. We've already tried that, and we've ended up with the largest prison population in the world without solving the problems of crime and violence. The addiction on jails and incarceration in this country, we have moved past that. It is racist, it is immoral, it is unholy, and it is not the way to drive violence down.
So instead of them celebrating this tremendous win of 11 days of no crime, they will scream racism, and they'll say this is racist, and they'll holler that at anyone who dares to enforce law and order. Like, they'd rather see black communities just buried under bullets and blood in the streets than to admit that their policies don't work. That's just the truth. They're addicted to the chaos. Instead of them celebrating this win, that Black life and American life is being preserved, they cannot do that. Now, meanwhile, Donald Trump walks in, he lays down some common sense policies. Like, this is not that hard. It was simple and common sense, and boom, instant results. Not 6 months of results, 6 years of results, instant results. He didn't just make Democrats look bad, y'all. He exposed them as the custodians of chaos and the deacons of dependency that they really are. This is who these people are. But let's zero back, because here's the bigger picture. The uncomfortable truth is that if Democrats actually cared about Black lives, they would absolutely welcome Trump's crackdown, but they don't. They do not. Saving Black lives is not their goal. Okay, I'll tell you what their goal is. Their goal is controlling Black votes. That's why they're crashing out over the redistricting in Texas, because now they're like, wait a minute, we can't control these votes. These actual voters may be leaning right. Well, you can't draw a map to carouse them based on ideological congruency. We need to keep them because they're Black. The Black vote, they are the electoral serfs for the Democrat Party. They believe that they own your vote. So as a Christian, in order for me to view this from the lens of Scripture, I have to remind us that Romans 13 reminds us that government's God-given role is to punish evil and to reward good. So what Donald Trump is doing, there is nothing wrong with it. It is completely in line with a biblical standard. Okay? But Democrats have flipped this upside down. They actually are protecting criminals and punishing the innocent. And then they want to call it justice. That is not justice. That is lawlessness. And lawlessness is sin. So let me end with this. Democrats can gaslight and spin and scream racism all they want. They can do that, but the receipts don't lie. It's been 11 days. 11 days, 0 murders, lives are being saved. Families are being spared. Safety is being restored, and that is a good thing. Y'all, Donald Trump just proved in less than 2 weeks the Democrats have had decades to fix their cities, and they chose failure instead. And that, if that doesn't wake you up, I don't know what will. And if you still think that the Democrat Party is the answer, you may want to check your pulse, because you're living in denial. The writing is on the wall and you refuse to see it. However, I'm open to correction, but I'm also curious to know, what do you guys think? Do you believe that the Democrats have truly cared about crime, and that, they just have a weird way of showing it, and that, they have a method that works. We just haven't given them enough time to get the results, right? Like, if that's your view, I'm curious to hear from you. Or do you believe like these darn Democrats have no interest in stopping crime? A Democrat heaven, like I always say, is an American hell. All they know how to do is grandstand and implement horrendous policies that never improve anyone's lives or anything. So I want to remind you guys, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Y'all, let's keep exposing the lies and lifting up the truth and standing firm on God's word. God's word is the sure foundation that we have. And it's important that we appeal to that, which is an objective standard of truth, in order for us to figure out and learn how to navigate through these times. But until next time, you guys, stand firm, stay bold, and above all else, stay unshakable. Don't forget to check me out on Patreon. I'll see you next time. Grace and peace.